I've dribbled. Hello, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Tom Lanham's interview with Panic at the Disco. For the particularly ghoulish among you, the British video is still floating around on YouTube, as creepy as it was when it was first filmed in the summer of '06. It's a particularly chilling clip from that year's reading festival, showing ebony-garbed, eyelinered Panic at the Disco frontman Brendan Urie strutting on stage, launching into a droning emo-core song, alongside guitarist Ryan Ross, and promptly getting beamed with a full beer bottle thrown from a decidedly anti-emo segment of the audience. We're talking unconscious, out, cold. It wasn't quite the warm UK welcome that then teenage members were expecting, and it could have easily killed poor Yuri, who was hastily dragged off stage to recover. Bloodied but unbowed, the singer returned a few minutes later to pick up right where he left off.
And like it happened on the first song, and we were just like, wow, this is what it's going to be like. But it seemed a lot worse to us right when it happened, and honestly, there were maybe like 50 to 100 people throwing stuff out of 50,000. And at first, we wanted to blame the whole crowd, but then we kind of realized that it was such a small amount of people who were like actually giving us a hard time, so we finished the set. And after that, no one threw a beer bottle for the rest of the whole tour. So it was kind of like a bad thing to have happen, but I think that the fact that we just kept going made it more like a trial for us to get through.
Not an easy thing to do. Stare out into a crowd and sense nothing but overwhelming hate radiating back. But that was the kind of reaction Panic, which then punctuated its moniker with a pretentious exclamation mark, had started to inspire in some circles, with its platinum-selling A Fever You Can't Sweat Out debut on Pete Wentz's hip Decadence imprint, distributed by the even hipper Fueled by Ramen. But the group had already learned a lesson it takes most artists years to comprehend. Don't like your current sound or image? You can always reinvent yourself. Ergo, even a drunkest overseas lager lout will do a dumbfounded double take over a pretty, odd Panic at the Disco's eclectic, remarkably mature new follow-up, which bounds giddily through styles like folk, R&B, power pop, psychedelia. Even a horn and symphony buttress spin on Sgt. Pepper via its irresistibly catchy flagship single, 9 in the Afternoon. So why lob that bottle when you should lift it in a job well done respect instead? The emo movement?
I think that whole scene is about to be completely like that. I think kids are going to look for real rock and roll again, because everything's gotten so saturated with bullshit that I think people are hopefully going to start seeing through all that. Even getting saddled with the emo label was always like weird for us, but I guess it's sort of that whole guilty by association kind of thing, like the connotations that go along with the record label we were signed to and things like that. But it was like really weird and frustrating for us because we honestly felt like because of that, we weren't really fitting into anything at all. We weren't really that, and we weren't really this, so it was good and bad in a way, because feeling like that allowed us to keep doing whatever it was that we wanted without trying to adhere to any certain kind of scene.
Is it still me that makes you sweat? Am I who you think about in bed? When the lights are dim and your hands are shaking as you
I'm going to light a fag.
think of what you did and how I hope to God he was worth it. When the lights
Pardon me, Mr. Pringle.
your heart is racing as your fingers touch. I got more wit, a better kiss, harder touch. A better
Goodbye,
fuck.
dreaded emo. And hello to what exactly?
Had me. Girl, I was it, look past the sweat.
Excuse me.
Deserving of exchanging body heat in the passenger seat. No, 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 you know it will always just be me.
Pretty odd opens with a campy tongue-in-cheek disclaimer from this Las Vegas quartet. We're so starving, which assures fans, you don't have to worry because we're still in the same band. Then they spend the rest of the frothy set proving that they're not. I Have Friends in Holy Spaces has a real Victrola vaudeville aura. Northern Downpour taps into vintage folk. Behind the Sea feels like an old Beatles outtake. Spoken around is genuine yee-haw hoedown. They said ho. She Had the World could pass for an 18th century harpsichord minuet. And The Green Gentleman, Things Have Changed, actually revolves around a bell-chiming backdrop. All, of course, sung in Yuri's inimitable nasal vibrato, fast becoming one of the most remarkable voices in modern rock.
When Brendan joined the band, we were only like 17, but we never heard of a kid who could sing like that, ever. So he was like a really good find.
And he's still baffled that folks haven't caught on to the group's ribald sense of humor a la, "We're so starving."
It's funny how many reviews I read, like where the journalists just did not get the joke. They're like, "This is the most pretentious track I've heard in years." And we're like, "You really thought we were serious with that?" So we still get like misunderstood quite a bit.
How did Ross reach this new level of maturity so soon? Practice, practice, practice. It begins in childhood, he swears, when he felt displaced, out of sync with his era.
Like, I don't know like what it really is, but like when I was a kid, I was always like into Mark Twain and Charles Dickens, you know, like old late 1800s kind of stuff. And you know, the 1920s too. I don't know. Something about all that always seems like a fairy tale or something. You know, like from the way they acted and like the way they dressed. It's like all so different, you know? And I've always been drawn to stuff like that. Just because you always wonder what it would be like to live in another time.
And his rock and roll revelations?
The biggest one for me, that's still that I don't think like we will be able to beat, is like the Beatles. I couldn't believe that I'd gone my whole life without like, knowing all these songs, because ever since we started the band, we were interested in writing like all kinds of songs, and they were the only band I'd heard that actually did that. And I didn't care about trying to be just like one thing, and I just couldn't believe it. It was like crazy to me that I found this band, and they were like only a band for like 12 years. I'm like, you know, like, that was that. And I found some other ones, like Queen. Queen's got like a lot of great songs. Paul McCartney's probably like my favorite singer, but Freddie Mercury would be my second. And not just in skill. He was talented and totally like tasteful with everything. Bob Dylan was also big for me, because his lyrics are probably like the best of all time. But like lately, I've been getting to some of like the earlier David Bowie stuff. I want to take my time, you know? And once I find something I really dig, I'll listen to it until it's worn out. And then I've got to find something else.
Everything has worked out so well, in fact. Ross had to stop and pinch himself to make certain it's all real. And you've really got to hand it to this kid. So many young artists crawl out on a tiny twig of the mighty oak that is music and declare it theirs. Ross had laid claim to the entire tree. Thank you very much. And he's even started to question the very zen-like nature of his craft.
Songwriting. It's a lot harder to do today than it was in the beginning of rock. I'll tell you that much. Every passing year brings more copywritten tunes, more patented patterns, and artists is forbidden to follow. And so it becomes more difficult. And the music becomes worse. Most of the time that people are trying to make it so different. And it's sometimes very frustrating because you hear so many songs and you think, wow, that song is perfect. And then what are you supposed to do?
The answer, Ross finally decided, is in the journey, not the artistic arrival.
Oh, well imagine as I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor, and I can't help but to hear, no I can't help but to hear an exchanging of words. What a beautiful wedding, what a beautiful wedding, says a bridesmaid to a waiter. Yes, but what a shame the poor groom's bride is a whore. I chime in with a haven't you people ever heard of closing a goddamn door? No, it's much better to face these kinds of things with a sense of poison rationality. I chime in, haven't you people ever heard of closing a goddamn door? No, much better to face these kinds of things with a sense of, well in fact, well I'll look at it this way, I mean technically our marriage is saved. Well this calls for